But basically, yeah, Avatar 2, the big question here is, will it be a box office flop or will it be a box office hit? Or will it be something in between? I'm honestly going somewhere in between. I don't think it's going to be a flop, and the reason for that is, I don't doubt James Cameron. If there's something I hear to so far in the cinema world, is I do not doubt James Cameron, because he's been doubted twice in his career, with Titanic projected to be a flop and the first Avatar projected to be a major flop, and both of those have been the complete opposite 180s. And secondly, the fact that it's such a visual spectacle that's meant to be seen in theaters and people know it. I think whether or not they hate, the first Avatar story, you can talk all day about that, that aspect of it. I think they'll turn out just for the visual spectacle of the movie itself, and the fact that it's in 3D, even though people say 3D is dead. The fact that this one is built for 3D, and Cameron is a pioneer of 3D, and that's what made the first one such a success. I honestly think people are going to flock to this movie. I project it. I don't think it's going to be an all-time, it's not going to break the first Avatar's all-time worldwide record and be the highest grossing in film history. But I do think it's going to easily cross 1 billion. Maybe like around 1.5, 1.7. I don't think it'll hit the 2 billion mark, but I do think it'll easily cross 1 billion. That's my thoughts.
Yeah,
what do you think?
I don't. It depends on what they consider a flop. Yeah, because I don't know how much money they've put into it. If they don't move on with the other films, would that be considered a flop?
I would say yes. The third one is honestly almost completely shot. So I think I read somewhere, even if this one does flop pretty majorly, they will at least release the third one because it's so far into post-production already. Whereas the other ones, like 4 and 5, they won't. But at minimum 3, they will.
There's nothing about this movie that's drawing me towards it.
Yeah.
Just like the article says, this movie is forgettable. Like Avatar was forgettable. There's nothing that stands out about that movie that makes you go, oh yeah, remember this line, remember this scene, remember this. All you have is the theatrical experience of it, which means it doesn't stick with people, and it came out in 2009. It was right before major social media meme culture, before the stuff that, we have now that get stuff really stuck in your head, like a movie comes out and the fact that they can make a bunch of memes about it the week afterwards is what really gets me, people like going to see a movie or people learning more about a movie now. The other thing is, I feel like Avatar, a lot of its success is overblown. I feel like they had 3 to 6 months of not really being challenged by anything major. There were a couple movies. So the first Sherlock Holmes came out then, but that wasn't that big. It was a good movie, but it didn't have to do $1 billion back then to be big. Like it could make a couple $100 million, be fine. But other than that, it really wasn't challenged until Iron Man 2 came out in June of the following year. So there wasn't a whole lot in that time frame to compete against it. So you have this movie that everyone's talking about because it's a crazy experience. And then you go and see it and it's kind of like, hey, there's nothing really else playing. Let's go see it again. It was so crazy. It was so wild. I feel like that's really where a lot of its $2.8 billion success comes from. So that being said, it's a completely different game now.
Yeah.
It's a completely different culture. If he does something new in this film that makes people talk about it again, then yeah, I think they can get the repeat butts in the seat to make their money. But other than that, if he doesn't have anything new,
is underwater performance capture that's never been done before? Is that new enough for people? You think that is the primary new thing he did technology-wise?
That's the thing is, I don't know if that's. Performance capture has been done to death at this point. Everybody does it for almost every movie now. The fact that it's underwater, I mean, we have so much underwater stuff coming out at this point that who cares? You have Aquaman, you have Little Mermaid, you have other movies where they've done the underwater thing or are doing the underwater thing. I don't want to doubt James Cameron because, like you said, he's been doubted before. Everyone thought Titanic and Avatar would flop, and they clearly didn't. They became each the highest-grossing movie of all time in their respective times. But I think that at this point, he may be one of these people like Scorsese who's getting a little older and might be out of touch with what's happening in theaters right now. I feel like if it came out 6 years ago, maybe. But yeah, it's so long since the last movie came out. I was excited for an Avatar 2 back in 2010, 2011. I was still excited back in 2012. But after that, like, life moves on. Literally, since that movie came out, I have graduated 2 separate schools. I have gotten married, been married for 11 years, and had 3 kids, one of which is 8 years old now. So you're talking like this is a world apart. I remember seeing that movie in my hometown when I went home to visit my friends after living away for 2 years. Like, that movie is so far removed from my life as a geek person who is getting inundated with so many nerdy things, whether it's TV or movies or whatever, you know, like, so for me, I don't know if Avatar is even on my list of like movies I'm excited to see.
Yeah. And I kind of, my reasoning also is like the fact that kind of fall in the vein of Top Gun Maverick, and people, I don't know many people that were like, you know, when when it was announced Top Gun Maverick, they're like, yeah. But when they started seeing, you know, the trailers for this and knowing the effects that were in the movie, I feel like they were driven more by the effects and by the story itself, you know, and I feel like that's right in the vein for this Avatar. They're going to be driven by the effects. And, you know, if they like it enough, the first Avatar, again, also did so well because people were seeing it 3 or 4 times in theaters. So if this can actually get repeat viewings, that'll be a major factor as well, especially when you're paying IMAX 3D is like almost $20 a ticket. You know, that was a big factor back in 2009. I just don't know. My thing is, I don't know if people are going to be willing to spend $60 to see this 3 times in IMAX 3D. They have to really, really like it. I mean, to do that again. So, yeah. But we'll see.
$60. Yeah.
And the budget, I just looked up, the budget was $250 million. So it has to make, you know, general rule is you double the budget. So at least 500 to break even, which I think is very doable. So we'll see.